Good evening and welcome. My name is Erin Lurie, and we'll be getting started with tonight's program in just a few moments. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. We will be getting started in just a few moments. Thanks so much for joining us. My name is Erin Lurie, and in just a few more moments, I will invite our director, Kate Markert, to come on and introduce tonight's program. All right, Kate, please come and join us and get us started for this evening.
Well, thank you so much, Erin. Good evening, and thank you all for inviting us into your homes this evening. Something happened there. Okay. Thanks so much for inviting us into your homes this evening. I'm Kate Markert, as Erin said. I'm Executive Director at Hillwood Estate Museum and Gardens in Washington, D.C., and I use she and her pronouns. And as we begin, I would just like to take a moment to gratefully acknowledge the Nacotch tank, also documented as the Anacostan, the Piscataway, and the Pamunkey. Those are the native peoples on whose ancestral lands Hillwood stands, as well as the diverse and vibrant native communities who make their homes near us today. March is Orchid Month at Hillwood, and spring is just a few weeks away, and we have a beautiful new exhibition open. So I welcome all of you who are in the DC area to please come and visit. And then on the evening of March 16th, which is just next week, I hope you'll join me at Through the Fire, the exhibition benefit for the luxury of clay, porcelain past and present. We are thrilled to be having this in-person event at Hillwood next week. The show will be on view until June 26th. And as a reminder, Hillwood does require proof of vaccination for all visitors over the age of 12. On your visit, make sure you are leave yourself time to explore these beautiful collection of orchids that are in Hillwood's greenhouse. It is always a bit sad when we reach the end of a great lecture series, as we do tonight. But luckily, it's not too long to wait before we explore the luxury of clay. So consider joining us for all of the virtual programs. And we have virtual programs with two contemporary ceramicists who are featured in the exhibition. Roberta Lugo will speak with curator Rebecca Tillis on March 23rd, and we'll hear from Chris Anteman on April 21st. On April 6th, I hope you'll join us at Hillwood, or you can also tune in from home. It'll be a hybrid event. But Rebecca will discuss Marjorie Post's porcelain collection in the context of her female contemporaries who also collected porcelain. That is going to be a fascinating lecture, so please do sign up for that. But to learn more about all of our upcoming programs and to register, you can visit hillwoodmuseum.org. I'm sure many of you are members, and you know that you receive discounts on programs and in the shop and the cafe. If you're not already a member, I encourage you to join and support Hillwood's ongoing programming. Now I'll share a few practical reminders, which you probably already know. Your cameras and microphones are off, so please make yourself comfortable. But we still want to hear from you. We love seeing everybody say hello to us in the chat. And then finally, submit your questions using the Q&A module, which of course is separate from the chat. And you can do that just as they cross your mind. We will get to as many questions as we can at the end of the program. It's now my great pleasure to introduce tonight's speaker, Damen Jenkins. He mixes vivid colors with layered patterns to create architecturally inspired spaces that are polished, inventive, and unexpected. Emboldened by the haute couture runway, his projects feature luxurious and refined materials. A member of Architectural Digest AD 100, Corey was named Elle Decor's prestigious A-list in 2020. He has received numerous industry honors, including the New York School of Interior Design's Larry Kravitz Design Industry Leadership Award and Traditional Homes New Trad Rising Star of Design Award. Corey has worked in partnership and acted as participant in Kips Bay Decorator Show House, designing the formal Ladies Library in 2019 and the formal dining room in 2021, titled A Tent for New Beginnings. He was also the winner of HGTV's competition Show House Showdown and taught a masterclass on interior design in 2021. Corey's designs have graced the covers of House Beautiful and Traditional Home and have been featured in the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, the Detroit News, and Vanity Fair. His first book, Design Remix, A New Spin on Traditional Rooms, was released in March of 2021 and can, of course, be found in our museum shop. Corey, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you so much, Kate. What a pleasure to be with all of you today. And thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedules to spend some time with us. It's exciting to be with you this evening. This month, the month of March, marks the 1 year anniversary, if you will, of the release of Design Remix. It actually came out a year ago on the 23rd of March. And I'm so excited to see that it has been so well received. And many people have asked in putting together the book, what inspired me to name it Design Remix and what goes into making a book like this for the public. And I named the book Design Remix really because it speaks to my personal design aesthetic as it pertains to creating interiors for our clients. I really like to mix and match various elements, traditional, contemporary, modern, just all the different things and put them together into one fresh new interpretation for a client's project. And so this book kind of speaks to taking traditional interiors and giving them a new spin, if you will. When it came time to naming the book and giving it a title, we certainly bandied about several different options. And we felt that Design Remix spoke best to my own personal aesthetic, obviously, but also it spoke best to where I think people are today. Coming out of this pandemic, I think people have realized that life is too short to live in a beige box, if you will, and they're looking for fresh, vibrant color. They're looking for great pattern play, and they're looking to really give their lives a new layer, if you will, coming out of this particular dark moment in our history. So Design Remix kind of won out. It also speaks to my hometown. I grew up in Metro Detroit, Michigan, and many of you know that Michigan and Detroit specifically is known for Motown. We're the home of Motown music, the Supremes, Diana Ross, Stevie Wonder, and the Four Tops. And I love music. I love music of all kinds. And so if you're going to give traditional rooms a new spin, if you will, that's kind of where we got that motif from, Design Remix. So what I'd love to do now is kind of take you through the book and show you some of the images that have spoken to me, and talk about why we chose them for the publication, and then to the greater point, how to create that Design Remix effect. How do you make that happen in an interior space? So let's check out a few slides. So as Kate mentioned, last year, this past September, I was honored to once again design the Kips Bay Decorator Show House, be part of that program and design the formal dining room for this space. And when you're doing a show house, the main thing to remember is why we're doing it. We're doing it to raise monies and funds on behalf of beautiful children who are in need and to support their parents who are looking to keep them off the streets and in great upwardly mobile after school programs. And so Kiss Bay Boys and Girls Club is a charity that's very, very close to my heart. And so when I was asked to come back a second time to design a space, of course, we said yes. And then you kind of hold your breath and wait to see what your room assignment will be. And so they gave us the formal dining room. So this room has a lot of interesting elements at work. I was inspired by a great article that was written in Architectural Digest about 20 years ago, talking about the lineage of tinted rooms throughout the centuries, dating all the way back to Napoleon I and down through the 80s, of course, with our dearly beloved and departed Mario Boada. And it's so funny, Kate says, Ukraine colors. That's right, it is actually. I look at it now, in hindsight, we did choose these beautiful goldenrod and sapphire blue colors for this dining room. And we wanted to kind of bring back that tinted dining room concept that you don't see quite so frequently these days. There are approximately 460 yards of fabric at use in this room. About half of it's on the ceiling, and then the rest of it is on the four walls. And so we partnered with Sanderson Fabrics to produce for us this beautiful shantung on the ceiling, and then this gorgeous floral pattern for the walls. And it was a lot of fun to do. The chandelier is a historic piece, an antique piece from the late 19th century, as are the chairs. These Louis XVI chairs are also late 19th century. And we got a little saucy on the back by putting a stripe on the back of the chairs. But we put the stripe actually on an angle. It doesn't come off the bolt that way, if you will. It actually comes off straight. But we decided to get a little saucy with it and put it on the bias there. So we have that there on the angle, on the back of the chairs. And then of course, this beautiful yellow velvet on the end back and the cushion there. The two tables are a concept I've wanted to do for a very long time. So many of our clients are foregoing having a formal dining room. And I think that the pandemic really brought back the value of our dining room spaces. And so I wanted to give the dining room a fresh 21st century spin or remix, if you will. So instead of doing one large table, we decided to go for two tables. And they're both carved from quartzite, courtesy of Cambria. And I like the idea of having multiple conversations in one room. And so you can have two different tables here with two different groups of people. We've all been held hostage at a dining room table where one person dominates the entire conversation. So annoying. You don't have that problem here. You can do musical chairs. You can have everyone sit down for the main course and then get up and move around for dessert and sit down with a whole new group of people. I just think it's a much more modern way of dining today. And then, of course, we have this beautiful console, which is also an antique. You'll see a lot of antiques mixed in with our work. I think that modernity and antiquity are a very fun mix with a gorgeous abstract piece of art, custom done for this project by Jeff Trotter. Let's check out the next slide. So you can see here a close-up of the dining room from the other angle, and a close-up on the settings on the tables as well. Diane is one of my favorite clients, and she's like a mom to me. So of course I made sure that her name card is there. And we worked with Arte Italica for the beautiful dishes that you see displayed on the table. It's very formal, very traditional, but I do think that there's something to be said for cleaving to certain traditions, like you see here with this more formal dining setup. And you can see the room now from the other angle. A beautiful early 20th century sideboard in the very back. The server there has these beautiful brass accoutrement, if you will, and a piece of art that is clearly a woman out of focus, but we've had great conversations with people in the room when it existed. People were asking, is the woman, kind of pushing her shoulder up into the air, like, maybe putting her face into her shoulder a bit, or is it a baby? I don't know. I do not know. And that's the great thing about art. Great art is all about interpretation and getting the conversations running. So I leave that up to you to interpret, but it definitely was a well-received piece of art and conversation piece in this room. And you can see again more of the silk ceiling. A little story about the ceiling. We had a lovely couple, husband and wife couple, drive all the way from Yonkers, New York to Dallas, Texas to install the ceiling for us. And they drove with two young boys in the back seat through the remnants of Hurricane Henri. And we employed their services because we had scoured throughout the entire state of Texas to find a workroom that could do this very ambitious concept for us. And we had a number of false stops and a couple of promises that fell through. But in the end, after talking to over 36 companies in the Dallas, Texas region, we didn't get any hits that could take on this process. And so this lovely couple drove all the way from New York City. French Finish is the name of their company. And they drove all the way from New York City to Dallas to do this beautiful 3-day installation for the ceiling. So it just really underscores the lengths that people will go to raise funds for children in need. The floors are another great story. Devin and Dana Gadula drove all the way from San Francisco, California to Dallas to install these gorgeous floors here, all custom done, stained right there on site. And we're just so grateful for their craftsmanship and their support. So it takes a village, and this one room shows how much of a village we had involved. Let's check out the next slide. This is a project that we did in Michigan, and this garnered the front cover of House Beautiful magazine in March of 2020. And this was actually a historic front cover for House Beautiful. I'm told that in its 125 years, this was the first article and the first front cover that the editors there had chosen that had been designed by an interior designer of color. So didn't know that until way after the fact, but hats off to House Beautiful for always being on the groundbreaking edge. And we're very proud of how this project turned out. Our firm was able to be involved with the complete construction of this project, right down to the architectural elements you see here. We designed the motifs on the ceiling and all the moldings, of course, and the big, beautiful windows, which allow so much natural sunlight into the space. The clients were a fun pair to work with. The husband and wife had two very disparate views of how they wanted this project to come together. The husband was much more modern. He liked the mid-century vibe, think Mad Men, that kind of more modern touch. And then the wife was definitely more of a traditionalist. She loved more color, more jewel tones, whereas the husband was definitely more about monochromatic themes. And so we decided to be a good diplomat for both, and asked both how we could satisfy both of their desires. As you can see here, a touch of the wife's viewpoint with the emerald green velvet sofa, and of course the cleanliness of the furnishings there, the clean lines that speaks to the husband. And then of course, the surround on the fireplace, and you'll see a bit more in the future slide. It's like art. It looks like graffiti almost in a way. It's a gorgeous quartz site from a local showroom. Let's look at the next slide. So here's the kitchen, and we kind of gift wrapped the island here with this beautiful stone. And this was a bit of a test, if you will, for the couple. The wife has some trepidation about doing this particular stone because it is so bold, whereas the husband was sold on it pretty much from the very beginning. And I just told them, hey, it's going to be this great statement maker. It's going to be art. And you want to lean into it, this is what we have to do. And so it's now her favorite room in the house, she says, because it's such a great statement maker. We also mixed and matched the cabinetry. You'll see that pretty frequently in our work. We did this nice white oak upper cabinetry on top, and then we painted the lower cabinetry creamy white. That is Decorator's White by Benjamin Moore. And we also mix and match a lot of the finishes as well. I like to bring in all the different finishes: polished nickel, antique brass, the dark umber and black, whatever works well. I don't think there should be any rules per se. And this house definitely defied those rules, if you will, when it comes to mixing metals and finishes. Let's check out the next slide. Here's the formal dining room. This has a bit more of a traditional motif compared to the other spaces with the paneled walls, but we wrap the room with this really lovely grass cloth, and that's actually a faux hide on the ceiling. I always make sure I punctuate that comment with the fact that it is faux. We never kill anything in the process of our projects. No one died on this job, but we do like the texture that this brought to the project. So it's a lovely faux hide on the ceiling. My good friend Thomas O'Brien designed the chandelier for visual comfort. This was brand new at the time when we first did the project. And we like bringing in pieces that support our fellow designers, our fellow creatives who also license product for various manufacturers. So it's a community, and we enjoy supporting each other. So I was very happy to see Thomas's work here, and as far as the product, and being able to utilize it in my work for our clients here. The furnishings there, well, and we can also, either way, it's fine. But yeah, I was just going to simply mention, again, the mixing and matching of traditional furnishings like the host and hostess here with this very traditional velvet fabric juxtaposed against the more clean lines of the table and the side chairs. So just speaks to who the clients are. All right. Here's another project that we did in New Canaan, Connecticut. This couple found us in Traditional Home magazine, and the wife reached out to me and said that I have an American colonial revival styled home like the one that was featured in Traditional Home, and I'd like to see you do something similar but very different with our house. And so we met, and they were absolutely lovely. And what's so funny about this project is that it helps us to understand how when you're working with different clients, every client needs to be taken not only seriously, but given a really unique vantage point when it comes to designing their projects and giving them that unique care and that unique development. No two projects are alike. And so with this couple, I was surprised. I think I expected certain things to be done. I think I expected them to be a bit more sedate with their color palette choices, but they proved to be among the most bold of all of my clients. They are in their early 70s, and they have raised their children and gotten them out of the house. And they're like, we're not going to be safe or conservative with our design and decoration. We're going to make it bold and crazy cool. So I want you to paint all the doors purple. And I said, really? And she says, yeah, I want purple. I want this lacquer purple. And so I said, okay, we'll do that. And it worked out beautifully. It's not exactly Barney purple, but it definitely is not too far away from that particular shade of violet. But the purple doors were a lot of fun. And they almost read black in certain spaces. And it speaks to the youthful outlook that this beautiful couple has for themselves and for their loved ones in their orbit. The other fun thing about this project is that we recovered over 30 pieces of furniture. They had purchased very well, getting great frames from high-end manufacturers over 25 years ago. And so I didn't feel the need to buy a lot of new furniture. The two wingbacks in the background there were among the only 2 or 3 pieces that we bought for the whole project. Everything else we either recovered with new fabrics, or in the case of that coffee table there, that was a chinoiserie table. It was black with gold details. We painted that white. And I just love to repurpose and again, remix great pieces of furniture. And that speaks to, I think, again, how we're living today, especially post the recession, post the pandemic, really investing well in what we have and passing down generational wealth to our loved ones and our children, and finding new ways to find great things and making great things work again with a new coat of paint or some new fabrics. Let's look at the next slide. Here's the formal dining room. And I will admit that I probably took on several enemies during this project with the contractors, specifically because of the lacquered finish. If you look in the corner there between those two windows, you can get a flare of how much detail went into lacquering these walls. You can actually see the reflection. You can put your makeup on in these walls. That's how reflective this is. And I drove the contractors crazy. Not just me, but also the husband. We were both very much perfectionists about getting this finish just right. So we employed Fine Paints of Europe for this particular project, which is a great paint product. And it was a pain. It was a lot of work to get those walls sanded to the point where they were smoother than a baby's bottom, and to, of course, apply many layers of the lacquer to get them just perfect. But they did a great job. I've never seen them again, and hopefully they've forgiven me. The side chairs there were actually these dark stained Chippendale, or actually Queen Anne chairs. We dipped them in white lacquer to again repurpose. And then the two host chairs were brought in from the breakfast nook, and we recovered those in a really funky, cool, crabbed texture pattern. And the Regency table there in the middle was there from the very beginning. So we just brought it right back and kept it in place. And of course, brought in some cool abstract patterns for the window treatments. Let's go to the next slide. So when it comes to the principal bathrooms, I find that clients have a very different viewpoint when it comes to waking up. Some clients love to wake up with a pep in their step. Some clients don't want to talk to anyone until they've had at least 2 cups of coffee, if not more. For this particular project, we wanted to celebrate a client that was really all about getting up early in the morning and being a big morning person. And so we chose this bright avocado paint color for painting all the moldings here. I'm a child of the 70s. As you guys know, avocado and those shades of green were very popular back then. And so I felt like it was kind of like nostalgia to bring back this color from the past and bring it into the future. There is a library that wraps around the bathtub in the rear of the space. I think it's fun to soak and read. It's so much safer to drop a book in a puddle of water versus your iPhone or your iPad. And so we wanted to kind of speak to this client's love of reading and having books anywhere and everywhere possible in their home. And we wanted to really bring in some toile. We love modern toiles, as you can see that there flanking the entrance to this particular chamber. Very vibrantly colored, but a classic pattern as far as the actual subject matter of the toile. And then we have the two sinks, the 2 pedestal sinks side by side there, which is kind of cozy, but great for a pair that are using this space. Let's check out the next one. So this was our first Architectural Digest spread, and it came out last year, actually. Yeah, it came out in last spring when we were named to the 8100. This was the project that they chose to make our announcement. And this is another new construction project. This one's in Michigan. The previous bathroom was from a project in Minneapolis. So as you can see, we go all over. But you'll find that all of our clients, no matter where they're at in the country or abroad, they all seem to love pattern and color. And so this particular client was the same way. Although, like previous clients, they too had a very disparate view between the husband and wife as it pertains to color and texture. Again, like the other husband from the House Beautiful spread, this husband too was pretty color averse. He was really more about neutrals, black and white and beige and taupe. And the wife, like the previous woman we spoke about, loved vibrant jewel tones. So much of what we do as designers is really being a good diplomat and putting out fires. And so we brought both of them together here by honoring the wife's vision with this crimson red runner up the stairs, and then of course wrapping the walls in this smoldery kind of taupey creamy gray, and then of course the wall covering too. Let's see the next slide. Here's the living room. I love conversations. I love mixing things up, not having everyone sitting on one gigantic sectional. And so we flank the fireplace with 2 conversation nooks with a channel back, and they are upholstered in leather. And then we have these fun Theodore Alexander lounge chairs here to your left, again, tying in the wife's love of red. And the part of the negotiations here that we made for the husband and wife, I told the husband, look, I'm going to give you all this beige and cream and black and white. I got to give your wife a big wild moment with the red, like lipstick red. So we're doing this Laconache range in the kitchen. And he said, okay. So as you can see there on your right, this Laconache range in the hood is just such a, show-stopping statement. It is fire engine red. But they love it. It is the biggest conversation starter when folks come by, and we're very proud of it. Let's look at the next slide. So Kate mentioned that I had the honor of participating on a reality television show about 13 years ago for HGTV. This was the project that I was doing at the time when I was filming the series, which was a little hair-raising, a little stressful, but I got through it, although I have no hair left today. And this was a complete gut renovation in Michigan, and the client really wanted that kind of New York meets Midwest vibe. So we did a complete reno here, tore out all the walls, did moldings, and worked in some things that the client owned, as we do always with our projects. For example, the disc you see on the coffee table belonged to the client's, the husband's great grandfather, who apparently was an Olympian. And they had this piece in the family for forever. But when we worked with them, we found it in a box in their basement and had been sitting there for decades. And so we took it out and made it into an accent or an accessory, if you will, for the coffee table. So again, design remix, taking things that have worked in the past, giving it a new spin and bringing it back out. Let's go to the next page. So kids' rooms are a big feature in our new book, Design Remix, and there's a whole chapter devoted to that. And I think that's really important that designers and parents invest well in children's spaces. All of us can remember what our kids' bedrooms looked like, whether they were great or not. We have a memory. And I think that those are very, very formative years for children. And when they're growing up, to have a space that speaks to who they are. And so you see here 2 examples of 2 different rooms we've done for little people. The one on the left, the young girl loved vibrant orange. Her parents were shocked to hear that. They had no idea that their daughter loved orange. But I always interview the children with their parents. I always ask the children directly, what are your favorite things? And the answers that sometimes come out of these kids' mouths, like the proverbial saying, from the mouths of babes, sometimes shocks parents and even shocks us as designers. So I have never done a tangerine orange room of any kind, but we've done one now. Thanks to this young lady. I think it turned out just so fun. The image on your right is a study space for these 2 daughters to come home from school and do their homework. We kept the furnishing purchases here very simple. We didn't invest a ton of money into it because the parents were like, look, we're going to have kids in here. They're going to be rambunctious. Don't spend crazy amounts on the furnishings here. But we did splurge on the chandelier. We did splurge on lacquering the walls. And so the idea here is that when these children grow up and perhaps are not using the space as much in the future, the parents could completely redo this room and celebrate their previous investment with the chandelier and go a whole different direction. So it's all about investing well in the present with a mind towards the future. Let's look at the next slide. Here's a dining room from a client in Summit, New Jersey. And this client found us by way of Traditional Home magazine as well. So again, hats off to our magazines, House Beautiful, Traditional Home, Architectural Digest, all of them, long live print, because they really do help us as designers, get press and to get noticed and to perhaps get commissions. And this was just such a project. Absolutely lovely woman and her husband, just two great souls we were honored to work with in Summit. And this is a historic home that was built in the late 1800s. So that comes with some challenges. Historic homes have lots of historic problems. You open up the walls and it's like, oh my God, this is something that I wish we had never uncovered. And that happens. But we completely renovated this home while still holding on to the original architectural motifs you see here. And we just celebrated it in such a great way, I think, with the clients. And the furniture, again, most of it is vintage. The client owned from years prior. We gave it a new spin with new fabrics and new finishes. Although I do believe that the host chairs are new. We did have those custom made for the project. Let's look to the next slide. This is a house that we built for a client in Michigan. This got the front cover of Traditional Home. Part of the design remix philosophy is leaning into bold, vibrant color. And sometimes it's not about jewel tones like blue or green or red, but it can be neutrals. Neutrals can also be very bold, and that speaks to black, chocolate, gray, and white. And so here we painted these walls, this beautiful Hershey's Kiss kind of shade of chocolate brown. People will joke when they visit and act like they're going to lick the walls because it does look like it's made from, like it's carved from like Hershey's chocolate. This was a risk for the client because they were a bit out of their comfort zone, but they trusted in us and they said, okay, we'll give it a shot. One lesson here is we always install the projects if we can without the clients being present. But when they see this, like a dark room like this without all the furniture and the rugs and the white sofa, it can make them panic. And so we will excuse them from the house and we'll do our thing and then we'll bring all the furniture in, and then they come in, they can see the entire story published here for them in the visuals. So it worked out well in this case, with a little touch of lime green, some cream, some gold, and of course the chocolate. Here's the living room of the same house. Big, gigantic chocolate trusses kind of line this 3-in-1 space. We have a kitchen, dining room, and living room all in one area with these floor-to-ceiling drapes. The sofa, as you can see, there is in this really lovely blush pink velvet. And the husband was a bit concerned about having to watch TV in this space with a pink sofa. They wanted to have Super Bowl parties and things of that nature. But I said, we're going to temper it with chocolate and this beautiful green and cream as well. And so to give the sofa a bit of a statement, we lined the bottom of the drapes with a reverse peplum, if you will, with the chocolate linen going across the bottom of the drapes. And that contrasts against the sofa. If the sofa had been going up against the more neutral fabric on the upper 2/3 of the drapery, it would have washed away. It would have completely just been a very light, frothy palette, which would have been beautiful, but for him would have been too feminine. So we decided to give it a little shot of espresso there on the window treatment draperies. And it actually spoke to both husband and wife. They both love the mix and match of the color palette here. Many of you may not know my story, and I won't go into all of it now, but when I launched my firm in the Great Recession, I came about my first client by knocking on doors in my local neighborhood. I had a very lucrative job working as a purchasing agent for the Big Three for about 10 years. And then when the Great Recession hit, I got laid off. And that was very tough, obviously, for me to deal with, but I had to pick up my jaw off the ground and try to get back to work after applying for a similar job dozens of times in the industry there in Michigan, which is, as you know, a state that's known for making cars. I realized I just could not get back into that industry. But my first love and my original love was always interior design. And I had pursued and studied interior design way back in the mid-90s, but under strong advisement from my dad, strong encouragement from him, I decided to not pursue a career in design, but instead pursue a career in business. I'm glad that happened because obviously we're managing large budgets now. You have to understand business and money and money management and being a good fiduciary on behalf of your clients. But when I lost my job, that was the time for me to lean into my original gift and my original joy, which is design. So realizing that most people were probably not hiring designers at that time because we were in the midst of this big, great recession, I decided to go knocking on doors. I literally rented a car from the local enterprise rental agency because I didn't want to drive my car into these gated communities. And I just went door to door. I mapped out all the nicer suburbia of Detroit and identified the homes where we thought people would be willing to hire a designer. And I went from door to door. My spiel was very simple. My name is Damen Jenkins. I'm an interior designer. Are you in need of design services today? And I got the doors slammed in my face on many occasions, but this one door, the 779th door, that's how many it took to get a response, was this house here. And a lovely couple who to this day, we remain the best of friends. They welcomed me into their home, into their lives. They gave me a decent budget to completely renovate this home. I put it on my little GoDaddy.com website that I designed myself because I couldn't afford a webmaster at that point. And then 2 weeks later, HGTV cast me on my first television show. So the moral of the story is, if the opportunity is not coming to you, knock on the door. If the door doesn't open, bust out a window. But the point is, get your point across and keep knocking on the opportunities, keep fighting for your goals, keep chasing your dreams until your dreams become a reality. And this was my reality, my 779th house, and the outcome was here. Let's look at the next slide. This is my former home in Michigan, my condo. I miss it. All of that furniture has been dispersed into either my office or my new New York apartment here in the city. But again, I like to live my testimony, mixing and matching fabrics and textures and colors. Love art. In the studio I'm in right now, you guys will see in a few minutes, I actually have some of this art literally hanging on a gallery wall behind me. I think it's important to collect art, whether it's expensive or not. I think it's very important that you find a piece of art, even if you don't know where it might go in the house, find it and buy it anyways, because art always has a way of landing in the right place in your home. And this is a project in Bloomfield Hills, Michigan. Again, this is a house that was previously done by the great Mario Bavada. And he had renovated this home in the 1990s. And Mario was a friend of mine. We actually had dinner in 2008 after I had completed this project. I'm sorry, not 2008, 2013, after we had completed this project. And I showed him my photos. And as you know, Mario Bavada was all about the chintz and the heavy drapery fabrics. And he says, what the hell did you do with all my chintz? Because he knew he had put so much fabric on all the windows throughout this house. I did not know that he had done this house, 25, 30 years earlier. And so I said, well, I didn't know you had done the house. And so let's just say there's a very well-dressed homeless person out there, probably somewhere, because I put all of it in the dumpster. So we had a nice little chuckle about that. He was a good sport. He likes what I did. It's not what he would have done, he says, but that's okay. We both love color. We both love pattern. And I am just honored to have been able to touch a project that he had done so beautifully in the 80s. So this is the foyer. I think the next slide shows a bit more of this house. Yep, that's the room beyond, the parlor, with the blue and the sapphire and the emerald green and the citron yellow. These were colors that were not trending in 2012. We had to really work hard to find them, hence the rug there from Stark, but now they're everywhere. Which shows how fashion really does influence interior design. I saw this palette on a fashion runway in Paris the previous year, and thought that that would be a great way of introducing that to the home. But lo and behold, those particular color palettes were not trending yet on the design side, the interior design side of the aisle. So if you're looking for inspiration, look to the fashion runway and then wait a minute for it to come over to the residential side of things. This is the family room of the same house. Little story here, the artwork was all done by the couple's children. So I think it's really important to frame your kids' art, to invest well. And we put all of their art up on the walls and made a gallery out of it. And people come by and they think that they purchased this big high-end art. And it's like, no, it's from their first grade class. So I think it's really important to honor our young people by dignifying their talents and framing it. And this is the dining room, wrapped in a gorgeous de Gournay wall covering, custom made. I'll give a quick story about this. This particular artist also does the murals for Buckingham Palace. And he had gotten our order for this project before we started working on some projects for the Queen of England. But my client had waited several months longer to get her order in, and it was running very late. And she was really, she wasn't upset with me, but she was wanting to have this done in time for Thanksgiving. And so we called the artist and we were like, hey, we placed our order a long time ago. We really want to get this in before Thanksgiving. And he says, well, I'm working on a project for the Queen, so your client will have to wait. And so I told him, well, I'm working for a queen here in the States. And if I don't get this mural here on time, there might be some bloodshed. So fortunately, he got this done for us, but he had this shipped to us. It arrived literally the day before Thanksgiving. My poor wall covering guy was there till like midnight, putting this up on the walls, but he got it done and turkey was served. This is the principal bedroom. Again, very vibrant with the color, the wall covering, which is by Arte. And again, reusing pieces that they already own. That sofa, that turquoise sofa, they already own that. Wanted to bring that up from downstairs into a new space. And that table there to your left is an antique from I think it was in the late 1800s, I believe. So again, mixing in the old with the new. When people ask me what's your favorite project, it's hard to pick. And I'm always careful never to pick a client's project, because if the client happens to hear that on a seminar like this or some sort of public speaking engagement, they might get upset. So I always choose this one because it's a neutral party. This is the first Kips Bay project that I did in 2019, the Ladies Library. We are told that this has been saved thousands and thousands of times on Instagram and Pinterest and all the different social media outlets. The funny thing about this is that when you're doing a show house of this nature, they only give you about 7 weeks from the time you get the assignment to actually putting all the accessories on the tables and finishing it up. So you're really running and putting it together. It's like getting a mixing bowl and throwing everything you love into the mixing bowl and stirring it up, and you just pray to God that everyone likes what you've cooked. So that ceiling with the spooky wall covering, my staff at the time was not a big fan of it, but I thought it was going to make a big statement, so we went with it because there was no other choice. We had to go with it. We painted the walls Pink Swirl by Benjamin Moore, this beautiful, light, frothy, shade of blush pink. Looks like champagne on the walls. And I can tell you that at night, everyone's skin just glows in this room because of the way how the light interacts with that particular shade, that particular hue of pink. A Kagan style sofa there in the emerald green. The leopard print rug is by Stark. Again, no animals were killed in the making of this room. Thank you very much. And some great art from Left Bank Art and some vintage pieces as well that are mixed in from Newell Antiques. People ask about the chandelier. That's also an antique from the early 1900s. One of a kind. Is sold right after this house was done. But I would love to see that kind of brought back and remade for today. And this was the front cover of our book, Design Remix. This was a lacquered library that we did in Michigan. Previously, the woodwork in here was like a stain color, walnut stain color, and it's always a bit of a test of a client's trust for them to let you do something bold like this. And so that's why we sketch things out. We do renderings to kind of show what something can look like. So we lacquered all the millwork in here, this beautiful navy blue. The color here is Hail Navy by Benjamin Moore. The lacquered finish gives it a great sheen. Stormy clouds roiling on the ceiling, as you can see there, a great oriental rug on the floor that we got from an antique store. And then just really mixing and matching in antiques with new reproduction pieces. It's a fun project, and we had a lot of enjoyment doing it. That mirror above the fireplace is actually a TV. So again, being a diplomat for our clients, the husband wanted to watch the Super Bowl in here. The wife was not having it. She did not want a TV over the fireplace mantle. So we did a gilded framed television set with a mirror. Gives them both the best of both worlds. And it all worked out. It all worked out. And that's it. That's how the Design Remix book came to be, the guts of it. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Corey, thank you so much. It has been just a delight to tour all of those beautiful spaces with you. We do have time for a few questions. I've got one so far, so anybody who is at home and with us, please. Ellen's question is an excellent one that she admits is a current fierce debate in her house about stair runners.
Okay.
Do you recommend runners on all stairs, especially in a historic home? She noticed that there were a couple of really fabulous staircases.
Yeah, I think stair runners are very important for both the look and also the functionality of the space. I can't tell you how many times I've seen, even during the construction or renovation process, where we did not have a runner down yet, but the floors were stained or freshly done, and children, dogs, people slip and fall. So it's really about making sure that it feels safe, but it's also one incredible way to make a great statement. With color, with pattern. Just be mindful of the fact that when you are multiplying a certain pattern on stairs, on the risers, on the treads, you need to make sure that it looks good on all the angles and not just one angle, because certain patterns can give you vertigo when they are applied to steps. And it's very different than putting it on a wall. So you might want to just like get a sample and lay that out and test that.
I love that. Richie asks, if you have any tips for aspiring designers.
Aspiring tips for designers. Yeah, I think that the important thing is to be humble when you're doing design. When you're working for people of means, obviously they're bringing you into their orbit and they're entrusting you with their personal life, their personal information. They're trusting you to bring their vision to life in a way that they cannot do or do not want to do for themselves. And so you really have to be a good fiduciary. And I mean that from the financial side of things, but even creatively, thinking about what makes sense. And that's where humility really comes into play. It's not your house. When I mentioned the 779th door, that client there, she wanted a French provincial design. And it being my first project, I really wanted to do Tuscany. Because at the time, in 2009 and 10, Tuscany was all the rage. Tuscany. Where's Tuscany now? I don't hear anything about Tuscany whatsoever. It's like not even a thing right now. But at the time of the moment, I wanted to be of the moment. I kept pitching to her all these concepts with Tuscany. And she kept saying, yeah, I know, but it's just not what I want. I'm like, but it's what you need. She's like, it's not what I want. And I'm like, oh my God, you're right. This is what I want. And I don't live here. And I'm so glad that I was humbled by her. She was very kind about it, but she made it clear, this is my house. And I need you to do what I'm asking you to do. And thank God I listened, because if I had done Tuscany, I couldn't put that in that presentation, because Tuscany, as we know it, is now considered dated. So listen to your client and honor them and be humble about it. And I think if you are willing to check your ego at the door, your creativity soars, the clients are happy, and that's how you get more commissions.
I love that. I love that. I am trying my best to keep up. We have a lot of great questions coming
Oh,
in. So I'm going to try my best to pick up on some similar themes.
okay.
Someone wrote in about your incredible creativity with ceiling spaces, with colors and sheens, and they live in a place where all of the ceilings have sprinklers. So
I'm
in that
sorry.
case, neutral paint or something fun.
Oh, it doesn't matter. I mean, sprinklers to me are not going to be a deterrent from doing something fun. Just of course, make sure that you're looking at code and that you're not doing anything that would offend code as it pertains to sprinklers. But a ceiling's a ceiling, and give it the due diligence that it deserves.
Someone asked, when you're designing a room, do you start with the wall color or the architectural features, or does it really depend on the project?
That's a great question. Thank you for that. I think that for me, principally, I start with the color palette, honestly. I kind of start with that. What is the overall vibe of the room in terms of colors and textures and patterns? Architecture will be manipulated by what we decide there. Furnishings and art will also probably yield that will. So I kind of start there. I am not one of those designers that uses rugs to really inform what I do. It's very, very rare that a rug is chosen first by me. Normally, the first thing I order or that I select are the color palettes and the furnishings. And often, to be honest with you, Erin, the last thing I put in my rooms are the rugs. I know it sounds backwards, but it's just, to me, it's all about everything else. It's like bake the cake and then you put the frosting on later, if that makes any sense.
No, I love that analogy. It also, as you said, it's backwards from a lot of the things that I've read.
Right.
And I remember when I was furnishing my first living room, getting the furniture and being really excited, and then going, oh, none of this matches a rug I want.
Well, that's okay.
But I know
But
you
yeah,
hunt and found unbelievably gorgeous rugs for all of those spaces.
yes. But they often come after the fact. Like, I want to get my anchors, because the sofas, the coffee tables, the lounge chairs, they're going to cover up the rug. So I don't want that to necessarily drive the palette, unless the client has just some fabulous rug that they really want or that they own. And in that case, of course, we're going to always make sure we honor that and work backwards from that. But if it's my own brother's, most likely I'm going to go from the outside of the walls, like work my way in and then down. Even the ceilings and the chandeliers get probably first look from me before I do the floor, just because I'm going to cover it up. So also, rugs keep getting discontinued these days. So I'm not putting all my eggs in that basket anyway, because by the time I get it all done and the rug is sold and gone, I can't have my whole palette be riding on that element, because it literally will pull the rug out from under my concept. Like, that was a great little analogy. That was like a fun
It was
little,
perfect.
what do you call those? A pun? Is that a pun? Is that a pun?
Yeah,
Did
that's a pun.
I do a pun? Oh my God, I did a pun. Okay, so yeah.
We got a couple of questions about lacquer because you had several really gorgeous spaces with incredible lacquer.
Okay.
Can you talk a little bit about the process of that? How many coats? How much time does it take? The extra cost? What you need to do to make sure that, God forbid, dust fly into your wet lacquer while it's drying?
Yes, yes. Well, so that's a great question. First step is make sure the painter knows how to do it. Like, I want to see your portfolio. I also want to talk to your clients or in your past customers and see, if possible, pictures or some sort of proof that you've done it. So the first thing is making sure that the person that you're working with has been vetted to actually do that work. There is a difference between the type of lacquering work that we've done that you see in our portfolio and just painting walls, high gloss paint. There is a difference there. And so much of it's about getting the walls prepped. There can't be any imperfections or any flaws, because when you use high gloss paint or lacquer, it will highlight every single imperfection and idiosyncrasy that's in the wall. So you really want to make sure the walls are skimmed to an inch of their lives. And that's where the cost and the time really adds up, because they have to be perfect. It takes various coats to get that finish to be just right. And that's, again, why you have to have the right team that can do it. The paint also needs to be the right paint. Nothing against certain paints out there, certain brands, but we use fine paints of Europe often because it's a really great brand for that. Feral and Ball is another one that's just lovely for that. But really, you can accomplish that with any paint as long as you have the right team implementing that. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It's all about the
application,
and the experience.
Yeah.
And not taking, walls that have dings and imperfections and saying, I can't lacquer this, but instead saying, I need to find the right folks to make this impeccable.
Yeah, and there's a cost associated with it. Like if you want it done to the level you see in our portfolio, it is not cheap. If you want to apply high gloss paint to a wall, that's a completely different look. But when it dries, it's going to have all the stipple marks and all the little things. It's just a different. If you want that mirrored finish, it's an investment. And make sure you have all your artwork planned carefully, because when you hang,
because you are not moving it.
Well, you just don't want to crack it or damage or have multiple indecision moments and then keep messing it up. So I just say be very judicious with that. It's a great look. It's a great look.
Linda asked about the ceiling on that Hershey's chocolate bar room and what the finish was.
It is wallpaper. Everyone asked that question. So it is by, I love this brand called Cole & Son. And just so you guys know, the camera, this whole movement thing is not me. My camera is possessed. If my hands go like this, like jazz hands, the camera on my iPad adjusts. So I'm not trying to give you all vertical. So sorry, it's down. Anyways, there's a brand that I love using called Cole & Son. They have really great whimsical wallpapers. And this was back in 2016. 14, we did that project. And they had this mirrored wallpaper that was printed and looked like it was actually sheets of glass, like a grid. And we didn't do it to cut costs. We could have done a mirrored ceiling, but it was such a lovely motif, a great pattern. So we just put it on the ceiling. And to this day, everyone thinks that the client put actual heavy duty mirrors up there, but it's not that at all. It's just wallpaper.
I love that, though. It does give me flashbacks to wallpapering my ceiling when I was in 6th grade.
Yeah.
I do not have the skills to do it.
Yeah.
certainly a mirrored one.
Yeah.
We did get a request for your contact info, so I'm going to just drop all of that back into the chat. And CoreyDamenJenkins.com. Folks can find you. Your Instagram feed is gorgeous.
Well, thank you. We got a brand new website coming out here in just, I think, a week or two. Brand new website, much bigger, with lots of new images and lots of new work. I just saw a dry run for that earlier this week, so I can't wait for you guys to see the new website. But the domain will remain the same, CoreyDamenJenkins.com.
Terrific. Phil asks, when you start a project, what are your first steps? I know we kind of talked about working outside and in and down, but then what?
So if we're talking management of the project with the client, the first step for me is a very exhaustive client questionnaire. I ask my clients to fill out, it's like 40 questions from everything like, did you get the winter blues, your favorite color, to how do you entertain? I want to know everything about my clients possible, because it's like going to the doctor. You're bringing an ailing house to your doctor, or in this case, it could be a newborn house. It hasn't born yet. You know, what are the symptoms? How do you feel? What do you want this to look like? And I want to know as much as I can about the client. So that's really the first step, is a very exhaustive and comprehensive interviewing process, and get to know them really, intimately about their vision and their goals for the home. And then the next step is really start putting together palettes. I want to see where they land. I do ask my clients to produce for us or share with us Pinterest boards or magazine tear out sheets or Instagram feeds that they are inspired by. I don't have the ego to be like, well, you're not looking at my website. Where are the images from my site? I don't really care. Like, just show me what speaks to you, because if we're working together, then clearly there's something that is clicking between us. But I do want to know what that is. And then I found that the more expressive the clients are in sharing what they love and what they don't love, the more accurate we are with those first rounds of proposals. So when it comes to, for example, it comes to color boards and mood boards, there's a difference. But when we're producing those for the client, we want to make sure we're showing them colors they actually like. If they hate yellow and I'm pitching you a yellow and white and green board, it's a complete fail. So we'll often do a lot along those lines. And then once they sign off on the color board proposals, and we are looking at floor plans and renderings and elevations and all of that, RCPs, the whole detail package, then we're looking at furnishings and the purchasing of the product. And then it's a waiting period. Then we're waiting for contractors to finish their magic, workrooms to finish making beautiful drapes, furniture to come in from the manufacturer. And of course, with the pandemic, it's been a real challenge getting anything right now. But we're getting better, and God bless antiques, because antique furniture is always available. Vintage is always great, and you can always recover it within a couple of weeks. So for all those who are like, I don't want to do antiques, I don't want to do vintage. Now they're like, is there a vintage sofa available? Is there an antique chair? Is there a Louis XVI commode? And I'm like, oh, really? Now you want to do antiques, right? So thank God we have great sustainable choices out there for the environment with our antiques. And then we install. We normally send our clients away, like I mentioned, and install everything all at once. It's less stressful for them. And it's less stressful for us, honestly, because we really do want to make sure that everything is picture perfect, that the vase of flowers is in just the right place, that the champagne is chilled, that everything is just really like a television unveiling moment for them. We don't move that truck, we just open the door. But when they come in, we really want them to be just wowed. But it is an exhaustive process, Erin. It takes several months, if not more than a year, from genesis to completion to really get the project where it needs to be. So thank God for patient clients too, because that's very important. A measure of grace goes a long way.
It does. It does. And do you hear from clients that when they walk into these completely new spaces that they instantly feel like home? Because, looking at the photos tonight, there are a couple of those rooms where I feel like I would just walk in and live my happy little life there forever. So is that,
Yeah.
or is there still that adjustment period where it's not what it was like the last time I was in the living room? I need to get used to this.
It can be a measure of both, but I can say, and knocking on wood, so far, because we do such an in-depth discovery process with our clients, we don't have surprises. I think, and it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, Erin, about humility. When a designer's like, I've got this, I'm going to do my magic, and you just prepare to be wowed and get out of my hair, and this is what you're doing because this is fabulous, and I'm just designer so-and-so, and they're not as collaborative with the clients, that's when you have surprises. Because when the client comes and they're like, what is this? And so because they weren't cued in, they weren't included in the process. At our firm, we don't do that. I'm going to sketch out for you the rooms in my book. You see, I have all these sketches, all these renderings. That's for real. Like, it takes time, but I want the clients to see things articulated on paper or digitally rendered before they invest. So when they come in, yes, they remember it because we showed it to them several months earlier. The other thing too is, speaking to Design Remix, the book and the accessorizing portion of the book, I think when you include pieces that belong to the clients, when everything's not brand new, I think that's very important. I've had some clients even say, well, that's like junk. It's like $20. Why do you want to include that? Design's also a psychological, path, right? It's a journey. If you're coming into a completely brand new room and everything is brand new, but this, I don't know, this little egg or something that you've had since you were a kid is on the table, psychologically as a species, we connect to things that are familiar. And so I think that it's important to somehow work in something from the client's past, so it does feel somewhat familiar. It's also one less thing for me to have to buy and track and ship and charge. So please give me things that you already have so we can work it in.
Well, and I love that Olympic discus.
Yeah.
Like, why is that in a basement? It's such a great conversation starter, and it looked stunning in the space.
Yeah, shop from your home. So much of the art that you see in those projects are pieces that, in one case, like that one dining room in Summit that had the vintage, the historic home, she had that art in her attic for 30 years. And we had this stuff reframed and rematted and put them back up. It was a tremendous cost savings because we had a lot of negative wall space that needed to be furnished. And she was like, that old thing, I forgot I even had it. I'm like, well, let's bring it back out. You haven't seen it in 3 decades. Let's put it to work. So I think it's just sustainably more, responsible. And it's also a really nice layer to add in.
Absolutely. Well, we have a few more questions, and I'm gonna do my best to keep us to 2.
Okay. All good. I'm happy to answer.
Someone asked if there is a favorite place that's not necessarily your own design, but something that inspires you, like a favorite place you go for inspiration, be it a museum, Elmwood, or another site that you like visiting time and time again for inspiration.
Oh, there's so many places. Brooklyn Heights in New York, which is where I used to live, is a place I still go to for inspiration because I just love the architecture there, of the brownstones there. But honestly, one of the places that I love going to that may seem kind of weird to people is the Flower District in New York City. And the reason why is I enjoy seeing flowers in their beautiful natural state in the floral district. And I get inspiration as far as colors from the flowers. If nature can put these vibrant color combinations together on a flower or a plant, and it works here, why can't it work in an interior? So a lot of times, some of the more out there color palettes that you'll see in my work, a lot of them came from flowers and plants and other, natural things from our planet that made me think that's a really unusual color scheme. And I saw that in the fashion runway too. Maybe there's something here. And then I will translate that into our work, provided the clients love it too. So
I love that. I hope this last one is a bit of a softball because I do like to end on those.
Okay.
Jean, has her attention piqued by your incredible office? Can you show us a little bit more of the room that you're in?
Oh yeah, well, so we just moved into our office, like literally within the last couple of weeks. So we're still unpacking boxes. So yes, I can do that. Give me 1 second.
I got a sneak peek during our tech run last week, so it is.
So this is some of the art you guys saw in my home in Michigan, right? So some of those pieces are in new places now. Boxes, told you. And then make sure I can, check out my. See, it's zooming in. I hate that. I'm not doing that on purpose. And then back here is some artwork from so I drew this from my Left Bank art collection that came out last summer. And then you can see here can I flip my camera?
Yeah.
Oh my God, oh my God, look at this technology. Okay, this is so much easier. Okay, so this is my executive suite, and we'll meet with clients here. These are some great early 20th century chairs with these like Dachshund heads, these spindles here. And then wall of art and random PC screen. And so, like I said, we just moved in. And then coming out here is my design studio. So we have decorative elements galore, projects at work. We're in the midst of a very big project right now. Lots of windows. And as you can see, lots of skylights. Our design director, Rebecca. Hi.
Hi.
You're on candid camera. So our design team does all of their magic here. And at these different booths that our senior designer designed. And then we have these mobile tables that actually can be pulled together for a very long presentation, which we're going to be doing on Friday. And then out here is our foyer. This desk is going to be replaced by a gorgeous credenza that we're waiting for it to come in. But as you can see, we use every space when it comes to work. Our kitchenette's here, a wet pantry, and there's more spaces back there. But there's a skylight up here. So during the day, as you can see, when you come in here, it's just nothing but beautiful natural light, washing the whole space from the sides, from above. And I tell our team, the sky's the limit. And I want them to feel, really inspired when they come to work. So we just moved in, we're on the very top floor of our building, and they're replacing the roof right now, and everything they drop up there makes things fall into my coffee in here, which is annoying. But first world problems. What can you say? I'll take it. But yeah, that's most of it. There's more back there, but I'm not going to take you all to the loo or anything else like that. So we'll just kind of keep it edited. But the loo's cute too.
Corey, thank you so much for spending time with us this evening. It has been an absolute pleasure. I am so glad that you'll be in DC, that you've got some local clients, and hopefully we'll see you at Hillwood in person soon.
Yes. Yep. Well, thank you all for having me. It's been such an honor spending time with all of you. And thank you for inviting me, Aaron and Kate and everybody. It's been such a pleasure spending time with you guys. And may this spring be everything you guys want it to be. I think we're moving into a whole new chapter in our lives. And the optimism, the spring is in the air. It's all just feeling so good. And I'm just so glad that we are moving into a new beginning. So
I love that.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care. Bye.